My name is Clara Reed, and I used to believe that love had to be earned, that if I worked hard enough, achieved high enough, maybe my parents would finally see me. They saw me, all right, but only when it was convenient for them. Growing up, our home revolved around my older brother, Ethan, the golden child. Every medal he won hung proudly in the hallway, every small accomplishment celebrated with dinners and gifts. Mine, stuffed in drawers, forgotten, or too much fuss to mention. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself that if I just kept going, one day they'd look at me with that same glow. So I buried my hurt under straight-A report cards and sleepless nights, chasing a dream no one believed I could reach. Yale University, full scholarship pre-law track. The day I got my acceptance letter, my mother barely looked up from her phone. "That's nice, honey. But remember, Ethan's internship in D.C. starts soon. Maybe you can help him pack." I laughed it off, pretending it didn't sting. Pretending was something I had perfected. Yale was supposed to be my fresh start, a world where merit finally meant something. But every time I achieved something, the dean's list, a national essay award, an internship at a prestigious firm, my parents' silence grew louder. They never visited, never called unless they needed something. But Ethan, he got phone calls, care packages, even surprise visits. By senior year, I'd stopped expecting anything. I'd stopped sending updates. I'd stopped waiting. Then one cold March morning, I got the email. "Congratulations, Clara Reed. You have been selected as the valedictorian of Yale's class of 2025. I froze. My hands trembled over the screen. This was it. The moment. The one thing no one could ignore. I dialed my parents, heart pounding. "Mom, I'm valedictorian. I'm giving the speech at graduation." There was a pause. "Oh, wow. That's great, Clara. When is it again?" "May 17th, I said, voice shaking. "You'll come, right?" She hesitated. "Well, your father and I already planned a trip with Ethan. He got invited to a business conference in Italy. You know how rare those chances are for him." My breath caught. "So you're not coming? It's just bad timing, honey. We'll celebrate when we're back. You understand." I hung up before she could say more. For an hour, I sat on my dorm bed, phone in my lap, staring at nothing. The tears didn't come. Only that familiar numbness, the kind that wraps around your chest until you can't tell if you're angry or just empty. Graduation day came like a dream I didn't want to wake from. Sunlight poured across the campus green, cameras flashing, laughter echoing. Everyone was dressed in caps and gowns, families cheering, mothers crying, fathers taking photos. And there I was, standing at the podium, looking out over a sea of faces. 2 seats in the front row bore name cards, Mr. and Mrs. Reed. Empty. The ceremony began. My name was called. Applause roared. I stepped up to the microphone, my speech in hand. For a second, I saw Ethan's face in my mind, smug, effortless, adored. And then I saw my mother, tired of all the drama. My father, too busy to care. I took a deep breath and began. We're told that success means having people to share it with. But what if the people you love the most never show up? What if your biggest achievements are met with silence? The crowd quieted. Some of us learned to clap for ourselves, to build chairs when none were offered, to find family in those who cheer for strangers because they remember being unseen. My voice wavered, but I didn't stop. So today, to anyone sitting in front of an empty chair, this one's for you. A murmur rippled through the audience. Someone wiped their eyes. And in that moment, as the world clapped, I felt something I'd never felt before, freedom. That night, I posted a photo on social media. Me at the podium, 2 empty seats in the frame. Caption: "Sometimes the people who should have been there never were, and that's okay." I went to bed thinking nothing of it. By morning, the photo had over 3 million views. By the next day, my inbox was flooded with messages, journalists, talk shows, strangers thanking me for saying what they never could. And by the end of the week, my parents finally called. But not to apologize. They wanted to know why the world was painting them as villains. The first thing I felt when I woke up that morning wasn't pride. It was fear. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages, tags, notifications. Friends texting, "You're everywhere," or "Turn on the news." I thought it was a joke, until I opened my email. "Good morning, America. interview request. The New York Times feature inquiry, the girl with the empty seats. BBC News, can we talk about your commencement speech? My picture was everywhere, standing at the podium, tears barely held back, with those 2 empty chairs in the frame. Suddenly, my heartbreak had a hashtag. Hashtag the empty seats was trending worldwide. At first, I didn't know what to do. I wasn't used to being seen, let alone admired. I watched strangers online call me brave, inspiring, the voice of the forgotten. But there were others too. People digging into my past, analyzing my parents' social media, speculating on our family drama like it was entertainment. The internet loved me for my pain, and I wasn't sure how to feel about that. Then came a call. My phone buzzed, Mom. For the first time in weeks, I answered. Clara, what did you do? She demanded, her voice sharp. I told the truth, I said quietly. You made us look like monsters. Your father's colleagues have been calling all morning. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is for us? Something inside me snapped. For you, I said. You didn't even come. You didn't call. You didn't care until the world noticed. She went silent. Then, coldly, you've always been dramatic, Clara. You just love attention. And that was the end of the call. The following days blurred together, interviews, podcasts, speaking invitations. My inbox overflowed with people sharing their own versions of my story. The daughter who graduated alone, the son ignored by his parents, the dreamer who built something from nothing. Their words broke me and rebuilt me at the same time. One message stood out, from Professor Ramirez, my old literature mentor. You turned pain into poetry, Clara. Now don't let the world rewrite it for you. That line burned into my mind. 2 weeks later, Yale invited me back to speak at a special alumni event. The theme, Voices that Inspire Change. When I arrived, the auditorium was packed, not just with students, but journalists, teachers, even celebrities who'd shared my speech online. I stood on stage again, staring out at the sea of faces, the cameras flashing. When I stood here before, I began. I thought silence was safety, that if I stayed quiet, I wouldn't be a burden. But silence doesn't protect you. It just teaches people you'll tolerate being forgotten. Applause thundered. I continued, my voice steady this time. To anyone who's been overlooked, don't beg for a seat at someone else's table. Build your own, and let them watch from a distance. The crowd rose to its feet. I could barely breathe from the emotion pressing at my chest. For the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible, and I hadn't needed my family to see me to get there. After the event, I stepped outside into the cool night air. The campus lights glowed against the trees, and I finally allowed myself to cry, not out of sadness but relief. That's when I saw the text. Dad, we saw your speech. You've made your point. Can we talk? I hesitated. For years, I dreamed of those words, of them finally wanting to talk. But something felt different now. I wasn't the same girl who begged for attention. Still, part of me wanted closure. So I agreed to meet them, dinner, the following weekend, at a quiet restaurant in Boston. The day came. I arrived early, palms sweating, heart racing. When they walked in, my mother gave a small, tight smile. My father looked uncomfortable, like this was a business meeting he didn't want to attend. We ordered, made awkward small talk. Then he said it. Clara, you embarrassed us, he began. You made the family look bad. We just want you to apologize publicly and take down the posts. It's hurting Ethan's reputation at work. I stared at him. Apologize? For telling the truth. He sighed. For exaggerating it. You know we love you. We just couldn't make it to the ceremony because of timing. My mother nodded. We're family, Clara. You should have protected that. I leaned back in my chair. My voice was calm, but my hands trembled under the table. Protect what? I asked. Your image, or the silence that kept me small. My mother's lips pressed into a thin line. You've always had a flair for drama, just like your aunt. I laughed softly, not out of humor, but realization. All my life, I thought I needed their approval. That love was conditional, a reward for being perfect. But sitting across from them now, I saw them for what they were. Not villains, not monsters. Just small. Too small to love someone they couldn't control. I stood up. I spent years begging for a seat at your table, I said. But I finally realized I'm not hungry anymore. And I left. Outside, the city lights blurred through my tears. But it wasn't sadness anymore, it was release. I didn't post about that dinner. I didn't respond when they called the next day, or the day after that. For once, I didn't need to. Because silence, the thing that once broke me, had become my revenge. In the months that followed, everything changed. I was offered a book deal, The Empty Seats, Finding Voice After Being Unseen. It became a bestseller. I started speaking around the country, visiting schools, sharing my story with young people who'd grown up unseen like me. Every time I stood on a stage, I thought of that little girl in the back seat of my parents' car trying to get their attention while they talked about Ethan's grades. She finally had her moment. But success doesn't erase scars. It just teaches you how to wear them with grace. And though I had the world's attention now, I couldn't help but wonder, what would happen when the noise faded? Would I still believe I mattered then? Fame has a strange way of sneaking up on you. One day, you're a girl giving a speech to a half-empty crowd. The next, you're signing books under bright lights, answering questions about healing, resilience, and forgiveness. Words that sound beautiful until you have to live them. My book, The Empty Seats, exploded in ways I never imagined. Talk shows, magazines, TED invitations. People called me the voice of the unseen. But at night, when the cameras were gone and the applause faded, I still lay awake wondering if my parents ever opened the book. Or if they burned it. 6 months after publication, I was invited to speak at the Global Women's Summit in New York City. The keynote speaker, me. The theme was redefining worth. As I stood backstage, microphone clipped to my collar, I saw the crowd through the curtain. Thousands of faces, glowing phones, expectant eyes. I should have felt unstoppable. Instead, I felt hollow. My assistant, Maya, noticed. "You okay?" she whispered. I forced a smile. "Yeah, just thinking." But what I was thinking about was the empty seats again. Even here, in front of thousands, they haunted me, 2 invisible chairs in every audience, always waiting. When my name was announced, the applause was thunderous. I stepped onto the stage, lights blinding, heart racing. When I gave my graduation speech, I began. I didn't plan to start a movement. I just wanted to survive my silence. The room quieted. I thought that if I proved myself enough, the people who ignored me would finally love me. But the truth is, no amount of success can make someone see you if they've already decided not to. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. We spend so much time chasing validation that we forget what it means to belong to ourselves. You can't build peace on top of pain you refuse to feel. My voice cracked slightly. So today, I'm not here as a symbol or a success story. I'm here as a girl who learned that forgiveness isn't for them. It's for the part of me that still waits for those seats to be filled. The audience stood. Applause rolled like thunder. Cameras flashed. Tears glistened. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was performing. I felt free. After the event, I went back to my hotel, exhausted but calm. Maya had left a stack of letters and gifts from fans on the table, but one small envelope caught my eye. No return address. My name, written in my father's handwriting. I hesitated before opening it. "Clara, your mother and I watched your speech today. We don't deserve your forgiveness, but we're proud of what you've built. Your words were beautiful. They reminded me of your grandmother. She would have been proud, too. If you ever want to talk, you know where to find us. Love, Dad." My breath caught. For a long time, I just stared at the letter. It wasn't an apology. Not really. But it was something. The first crack in the wall they built between us. I folded it carefully and slipped it into the back of my notebook. Weeks passed. My schedule filled with flights, interviews, new opportunities. But the letter stayed with me, tucked inside my bag, whispering every time I opened it. One morning, while sitting in a coffee shop in Brooklyn, I found myself rereading it for the 10th time. The sunlight streamed through the window, warm on my face. And for the first time, I didn't feel angry. I didn't even feel sad. I just felt done. That night, I wrote my father back. "Dad, I don't know if forgiveness is something I can give yet, but I want you to know I'm not angry anymore. I hope you and Mom are well. I hope Ethan is, too. I've learned that love isn't about who shows up once. It's about who keeps showing up. I've built a life full of people who do. Take care. Clara." I never got a reply. And that was okay. The years that followed were quieter, but fuller. My second book, Seeds We Build, wasn't about pain. It was about growth, about found families, second chances, and learning to clap for others without losing yourself. I started a scholarship for students who graduated without family support. The first recipient wrote to me, "Your story made me believe I could belong somewhere, even if no one came to see me graduate." I cried reading that. Because that was it. That was the point all along. The revenge wasn't the fame. It was the peace. One afternoon, years later, I was invited to give a speech at Yale again. This time, as an honorary alumna, I walked onto the same stage where it all began. The air felt familiar, the scent of spring, the hum of the crowd. In the front row sat a group of students with no one beside them, the empty seats filled with flowers, a new tradition Yale had started in my honor. Each bouquet represented a graduate whose family couldn't attend. I couldn't hold back my tears. "I once thought those empty seats were a symbol of loss," I said softly into the microphone. "But I see now they were space. Space for growth. Space for the people who would come later and make sure no one sat alone again." Applause filled the hall, gentle but powerful. I looked out at the flowers, at the faces, at the sunlight pouring through the old stained glass, and for the first time, I didn't see what was missing. I saw what I'd built. After the ceremony, I walked across the courtyard, the same one where my journey began. A student ran up to me, nervous, shaking. "Ms. Reed," she said breathlessly, "your story changed my life." I smiled. "Then promise me something," I said. "When you see someone sitting alone, don't walk past them. Sit down." She nodded, eyes shining. And as she walked away, I realized that's what healing looks like. Not the absence of pain, but the choice to turn it into purpose. That night, I visited my parents' old house for the first time in years. They'd retired, the neighborhood quieter now. I didn't go inside. I just stood by the gate, the same one I'd walked through so many times as a child. In the window, I saw silhouettes, two older figures sitting side by side. I didn't wave, but I didn't cry either. Instead, I whispered under my breath, "I forgive you. Not because you asked, but because I deserve peace." The wind carried the words away, soft and sure. And as I turned to leave, I felt lighter than I ever had before. Some stories don't end with reunion. Some end with release. And as I looked at the sky that night, wide, endless, full of stars, I realized something simple yet profound. The seed I'd built for myself wasn't empty anymore. It was mine.